This is Ryan Abraham, Chris Trevino, USCFootball.com. Instant analysis from the Trojans' 55-17 win over the Colorado Buffaloes here in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It was a weird start to this game, Chris. Like you said, it was a soccer score. It was 3-2. USC gets a safety. Colorado gets a field goal. The offense is clunky. They get a turnover, which is very rare. We had a stoppage in play because there was a drone, unauthorized drone flag over the Coliseum. This was had a bad vibes feel all over it to start.
And it was a Friday, so it's like everything was weird. Everything felt off. It felt like a fever dream. And, Colorado has a 3-2 lead after the first quarter. Like, why not? Yeah. Why not? Let's see what happens. And, the offense was as bad as I think we've seen it this whole season, and that is including Oregon State. So, I asked Tahj Washington about that, and he basically boiled it down to miscommunication. There was so much miscommunication in that first quarter. And they had some guys stepping up and talking to them and ripping them a little bit about, hey, let's get it together. It just looked like they were out of sync. They had no rhythm. I don't know if it's because, their clocks were off. They're used to playing on a Saturday, playing on a Friday. The drone maybe threw them off. I don't know. But it was just a very weird start to this game and bad vibes all around to start it off.
Certainly was some bad vibes. And there were some bad vibes during the game. We're going to get to what happened in the game. But the biggest news coming out of tonight is USC's emotional leader, one of the, certainly one of the guys that's most important on this team. After Caleb Williams, you could argue he was number 2. Lincoln Riley talked about him being that they wouldn't be where they were today without him. Travis Tahj goes down, just devastating. The whole team comes out to kind of talk to him, shake his hand. He gave the thumbs up on the way out as he was carted out, put an air cast on his left leg. So we don't know what the injury is, but Lincoln Riley did say that he doesn't expect him to be back. But that was a really emotional moment here in the Coliseum.
And you're not exaggerating when you say the entire team came out. Literally the entire football team, not just the offense, not the running backs, everybody. Yeah. That sideline was cleared when they came out to cart him off. And that just tells you how important Travis Tahj was, how influential he was, and how much of this team loves each other, and how important it was for them to go out there and give him that moment and to send him off in a good note in a bad spot. And as you said, the emotional leader for this team, one of the emotional leaders for this team, he's the guy who gives those pregame speeches and gets them fired up. And look, Travis Tahj, incredible player on the field, one of the best players in the Pac-12. But his importance, I think, is more important off the field for what he does and how he leads this team and what he does for this program. And like you said, Lincoln Riley said they would not be here without him. And the integrity and the fight that he shows is, sorry, we got a lot of loud moans.
There's a lot of noise going on behind us.
But Travis is so important, and even when he was hurt, Tahj Washington said that he even gave a speech at halftime to the offense, and they really needed a speech. And who gives it? Number 26. And it's why Austin Jones flashed the 2-6 after he scored his touchdown in the second half. Travis is a senior. His college career is essentially over. He will not play again. And Lincoln Riley did say that injury does not seem like it will be one that will affect him in the long term, and he's going to have a great career. He's going to play on an NFL team next year. He's got a lot of good things going for him, but he said point blank it sucks. And they love him, and it's football, and that's what happens. You put a lot into the game, and sometimes, it doesn't love you back with injuries like this. So very tough moment. This was a win for USC, but it came at a great cost.
For sure. And Lincoln Riley, probably the first 3 questions in the press conference had to do with the Travis Tahj injury. And you could tell every player that talked about it, every coach talked about it, there was just this emotional connection to him and how important his role is going to be. He said he's still going to have a role on this team, but it's just not going to be on the field. And, looking for it. He made a little joke about, his wife and how he married above his head and whatever. So I think he's going to still bring something to this team, even though if it's not running the football and protecting Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, don't expect to not see Travis Tahj on the sideline, or I'm sure he's still going to be giving speeches at halftime and pregame and all that, and he's going to be on the sideline and be a big part of this team still. But unfortunately, you're not going to see him, on the field, and I wonder how that's going to look, because Travis Tahj, number 26, is somebody that the offense turned to when the offense was struggling. How many times this season have they put the ball in the hands of Travis Tahj and put the game on his shoulders to pick up critical first downs or get them out of a funk with his run game? And that's going to be something that Austin Jones and the rest of those backs have to do. But yeah, just talk about a huge loss as a player and then as a leader.
There were also some injuries. We're going to get into the running backs who took Travis Dye's place. But there were some injuries coming into this game that we were watching. We hadn't seen Jordan Addison for the last couple of games. We haven't seen Mario Williams. We haven't seen Raylan Goforth. And we got to see a couple of those guys. It was interesting pre-game, and I tweeted out, like, you saw Mario Williams warming up and Jordan Addison warming up. Like, looks like both those guys are going to play. They both look good. Williams didn't play. Addison did. We got to see a little bit of Raylan Goforth. We saw a limited amount of Andrew Voorhees out there. So there was, I think it seemed like a pitch count a little bit. You wanted to get those guys some reps. Jordan Addison came out and, was starting the game. But we didn't see a ton of him. And I think Goforth didn't come in until like the second half of the game. But they brought some of those guys back, trying to get them ready for the rivalry games coming up.
Right. And that's a really big positive sign. Even though Mario didn't play, he looks like he is going to be good to go for next week for UCLA. He was right on the edge of playing in this game, and you just want to get Jordan, shake some of that rust off, get out there, run some routes, go against a DB in a live game. That was important because you really need him for next week. You don't need him for Colorado. Colorado stinks, I'm sorry, but they do, and they just need to get that rust a little bit, get them in the rhythm a little bit, and then pull them out. No need to push them any further. So a good sign, a positive sign. The big one would be Eric Gentry for next week. Have to wait and see on that one, but for the most part, it looks like USC is going to be a lot healthier, minus the Travis Dye injury, of course.
Yeah, and looking on the offensive side of the ball, man, it was as bad of a start in that first quarter that we had seen. Caleb Williams had only one turnover all season. He had an interception in this one. A throw to Brenden Rice, the former Colorado Buffalo, that was underthrown. It was a play-action pass, underthrown. Looks like Rice could have caught it, but it ended up being picked off by the DB. Colorado doesn't force a lot of turnovers, so it was a weird that they get a turnover against Colorado. But just the way that started, it just wasn't, nothing was really rolling. But then Rice kind of like got them going, and Lincoln Riley talked about it. They had that really nice touchdown catch right near the goal line. He reached in and got the ball in. And once that happened, it seemed to kind of flow from there. But it was tough, I think, it seemed like they were trying to go to Rice a lot because it was his former team, almost forcing it early, and it wasn't really working. Then they got that touchdown, and it kind of rolled from there.
I'm sure a lot of USC fans felt this way. I'm sure you felt this way. But even when it was 3-2 in that weird first quarter, you never felt like USC was in danger of losing this game. You knew it was going to turn on at some point. It was just weird that it was not turned on from the start. It was like a sputtering engine. And then once it turned on, then it was off to the races. Once they got that touchdown, once they broke the seal on offense, it was like, okay, it's off to the races. And as you can see, put up 55 points. They just rolled from there.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about the running back situation. I thought they could run the ball a little bit more. They were kind of throwing it early. Just everything wasn't quite working. But we got to see a bunch of Austin Jones. We got to see Darren Barlow, especially in the fourth quarter, just running with some violence there. And Rayleigh Brown, catching passes, running in, getting touchdowns. And I thought when Miller Moss came in the fourth quarter, he had some really nice screen passes to those guys. And they look good. And so I think, yes, Dye's gone, and he's you're probably your best pass protector and your best running back for sure. But they're going to have to rely on these other guys. And I know Lincoln Riley has a lot of confidence in Austin Jones and mentioned Barlow and Rayleigh Brown as well.
Look, I mean, USC's running back room going into the season on paper was one of the best in the Pac-12. You had Austin Jones, who was a big contender or contributor when he was at Stanford. Obviously, Travis Dye. Darren Barlow. I think people forget that Darren Barlow flashed a lot last season, and a lot of people wished he got more carries, just been buried on this depth chart. And Rayleigh Brown, one of the most dynamic freshmen in the country, got a little banged up earlier. He's healthy now. We saw that playmaking out on this field once again. All three of those guys, Austin Jones, Barlow, and Rayleigh, scored, and that's great for their confidence and their mental state or mental game going into UCLA. They know with Travis Dye down, they're going to have to play a bigger role. Darren Barlow knows he's going to have to play a bigger role. Rayleigh Brown is ready to contribute more after the start he had to the season. And Austin Jones has to be that number one running back. I think they want him to be that running back. He absolutely has the talent to be that running back. We saw that early in the season. He had some big games. Travis Dye just kind of took over. He grabbed that position and took hold of it. Now Jones, he's the veteran in that room. He knows what he has to do. And, just listening to him talk after this game, Travis and him, their relationship meant so much, and that's why he threw up the 2-6 after he scored his touchdown. And he said it was so important for him to do that because Travis is a senior, his college career is over, and he just wanted to do something for that to show him how much he means to him. And they've been through this together. They're both transfers. They've been in here. They bonded like that. So it was important that he plays 4-2-6 Travis Dye, and I think we're going to see some good plays from Austin Jones moving forward in that whole running back room.
Yeah, they all scored a touchdown today, so that was nice. The receivers, a lot of talk about Jordan Addison because he was back, but he just didn't do that much. Really impressed with Kyle Ford. He had started with 3 receptions. All 3 of them were third down conversions, including a 3rd and 19 and a 3rd and 23. Tahj Washington had, I think it was a 61-yard reception, where it's like 50 of it was yards after the catch. And then, we talked about Rice getting that touchdown there. So the other receivers were still playing well, and I think it's good to have a base of guys. And if you get Mario Williams back and Jordan Addison, they can still be your 1 and 2. But I think you feel pretty confident with the guys you have. If you're Caleb Williams, the guys that were behind there.
Right, and we don't really know what it'll look like next week with Addison and Mario Williams for UCLA. They might have a lot of rust on their chemistry, and they might need, a quarter to get that going. But who he doesn't need to shake off chemistry with? Tahj Washington, Michael Jackson, Brenden Rice, those guys, Kyle Ford, those guys have been playing well in their absence. So USC is top to bottom a lot better than it was, let's say they played that game 6 games ago, where it was mainly Mario and Jordan Addison were eyeing all the targets. Now they're a lot deeper. Now they're a lot stronger. That connection with Caleb and the other receivers is great now, and it's something that they can lean on if Jordan Addison isn't clicking with Caleb early in that game, or Mario Williams still has a little bit of rust, having not played in several weeks. So they can rely on those guys, and that just makes them a lot more dangerous.
I think it was a second quarter drive where USC, there was like a sack, so it was 3rd and 19. They pick it up with Ford. Then I think there was another sack, and it was 3rd and 23, and they pick it up. And then they had an offensive pass interference. It was 1st and 25. 3 of those, really long situations. They end up scoring a touchdown on the drive, which was crazy. Defensively, USC needed a bounce-back game. They needed to make some sort of statement. We talked about this on the podcast, and people were like, you can't make a statement against Colorado. It was more about an internal statement, like, hey, we got to go out there and play well. And they get, Tuli Tupelotu, another monster game. Sack, fumble, pass batted down. Caleb Bullock, another interception. He's 2nd in the Pac-12 behind Phillips, I believe, from Utah, with 4 interceptions and holding Colorado to 17 points. I think this was a big deal. The defense needed something to feel good about, and I think they do after this game.
Yeah, it wasn't so much as making a statement against a bad team. It was more like momentum. Change the momentum, and you can do that easily against Colorado, and they did. So hats off to them, and Alex Grinch and that defense, which has take a little bit of a beating in the media and among fans for giving up multiple weeks of 500 yards and 40 plus points or whatever. But this was a game where you needed to come in and really set the tone, and they did that from the jump. So props to them, and they got after it. They got pressure, and Alex Grinch was happy with the pressure they generated. They did get a little bit banged up. Max Williams left the game, and he left the game in the first half with an injury. Came out of the locker room in street clothes, so they had to rely more on some other safeties, Latrell McCutcheon. But they did well. They forced some turnovers. Their first multi-turnover game in 5 weeks or something like that. So they got after it. Tuli Tupelotu, as you mentioned, a beast, just playing out of his mind right now, and adds to that national sack lead. So yeah, good effort for them, good performance for them. And I asked Stevie Nomura about it. He said it felt pretty good. After all the things they've been hearing week after week, to kind of turn the tide and get it going the other way. And this felt like a pop quiz you knew was coming and you could study for.
Yeah.
Next week is the midterm, Brian. Next week is the midterm. This is the big one. This is the one you have to pass to play for the Pac-12 championship if you want it.
Very true. Yeah. And Lincoln Riley and Alex Rich were both happy with how they played on 3rd down. A lot of that had to do with the pressure. Now, JT Shroud is no DTR, so it's definitely not, it's like an apples to orange comparison, but you needed to get right, because the Cal offense wasn't very good and USC's defense struggled. This was not a very good Colorado offense, and they did a much better job. Alex Fontenot had a really good game, but for the most part, I think they did a nice job kind of containing what they needed to do and just keep it, especially when the offense wasn't going well, they kind of kept it close. But I got to talk to Bryson Shaw a little bit about it, and Caleb Bullock. Kind of was on safety duty tonight, and Caleb Bullock, that interception was great. He's just really good at kind of playing center field and finding the ball. And I asked Shaw about it, and Shaw's just very glowing in it. And he was at Ohio State last year. Compared the smoothness of Caleb Bullock to Chris Olave, who's now in the NFL, like one of the great wide receivers from I know he's a receiver, but he's got that athletics, that smoothness to him. So a lot of praise for Caleb Bullock and what he's been able to do.
Hey, Caleb Bullock was rated as an athlete coming out of high school and played both ways at Muir High School. So he easily could have been a wide receiver for some of these big-time colleges that were recruiting him. So it makes sense. I think it's a smart comparison, and a guy who obviously played up close against Chris Olave.
Yeah, for sure. Well, any final thoughts here as we wrap it up? USC's 55-17 win, Chris.
No, I mean, I feel like we're covering a loss just with the loss of, Travis Tahj. Just a tough one to take in. And, if you saw the reaction on social media, like a lot of people were upset about it. And he's only been a Trojan not even a full year. And that speaks to kind of how much people love Travis Tahj. You talk to anyone, they love Travis Tahj. Just from his attitude to the quotes he gives to his personality, the mustache, great mustache, and just a great guy. And, it's really hard to see, him be carted off. But I will say, seeing him on the field after and on the sideline, he did look a little bit bummed, but by the end of the game, he had a smile on. Guys were talking to him, and he did seem to have, a good grasp on the situation. It didn't seem like it was getting him down too much. I think he, had perspective, and he knows that it's football. You can get hurt, and a play like this, and an injury like this can happen on, any play of a season. So I think he had that perspective, and he seemed to be in good spirits after the game. So I just wanted to pass that along. And just to highlight Caleb Williams, because I don't feel like we talked about him a lot, but fourth consecutive game with at least 5 touchdowns. He has 20 touchdowns, 1 interception, in 20 total touchdowns that include rushing touchdowns, and just 1 pick. In his first 6 games, he had 17 total touchdowns and 1 pick. So he's playing out of his mind right now, and that's what they need from him, especially going to this UCLA game, which a lot of people feel like is going to be an absolute shootout in the Rose Bowl. So we'll see, but playing really, really well right now.
He is. He talked about not being as sharp this week in practice. He's like, that's not going to happen this week. It wasn't like the Tim Tebow moment, but he was just like, I'm not going to let that happen. So we will see. They're going to need Caleb Williams and this whole crew to have a big game coming into UCLA in the rivalry week and stuff. So for Chris Trevino, what he likes to say, Trevino 10K. I'm Ryan Abraham. This is Instant Analysis here on the Coliseum field. Make sure you check out uscfootball.com for more.